The Ziran scout ship hovered above the emerald canopy of Varos 3, its sleek silver hull reflecting the light of the system's blue sun. Inside, Zer tapped her fingers against the console, watching the human below with a mixture of curiosity and exasperation. Humans were reckless, that much had been proven time and again. They had a stubborn tendency to stumble into places they didn't belong, touch things they shouldn't, and somehow survive the consequences. Marcus Hale was no exception. Zer had been sent to observe him, a lone human explorer on a planet considered too dangerous for most species. Not that anyone had bothered to forbid humans from coming here. They rarely listened to warnings anyway. But what she saw in the clearing below made her long ears twitch in sheer disbelief. Marcus stood with his hands on his hips, a relaxed posture, completely at odds with the thing beside him. A Vorak beast. Zira's throat went dry. She had seen Vorak before, in old battle footage, in hushed historical accounts of planetary devastation. The creatures were nightmares made flesh, armored beasts with obsidian black plating, eyes that glowed with a sickly green hue, and claws capable of slicing through a battleship's hull like it was wet paper. They were not tameable. Yet this one stood beside Marcus, its massive bulk nearly blotting out the light behind it. And worse, it wasn't snarling, wasn't preparing to attack. Instead, it let out a low, deep rumble, almost like a cat's purr. Zira rubbed her eyes. Maybe she'd inhaled too much oxygen from Varos 3's atmosphere. Maybe the fumes from the jungle were playing tricks on her mind. But no, when she looked again, the sight hadn't changed. The Vorak was still there, still calm, and Marcus was reaching up, patting the creature on the side of its armored head as if he were greeting an old friend. It took every ounce of Zer's self-control to not activate her ship's weapons. She hadn't survived this long by making hasty moves. But this was insanity. She switched on her ship's communicator, hesitating for only a second before opening a direct channel to him. "Human," she said, keeping her voice even. Marcus looked up, his expression brightening. "Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Didn't see her there?" Zyra was in an Aran scout ship, a vessel with the most advanced cloaking technology available. Either this human had nerves of steel, or his perception was catastrophically flawed. She ignored the absurdity of his greeting. "Are you aware," she said carefully, "that you are standing beside a Vorak beast?" Marcus glanced at the creature as if he had momentarily forgotten it was there. "Oh yeah, this is Brutus." Zyra's brain short-circuited for a moment. "You named it?" "Sure did." He patted Brutus's plated side again. The Vorak made a contented, guttural noise. "He was kind of a menace when I found him as a cub, but we worked through some things. A little patience, a lot of snacks, and some firm boundaries." He gestured toward the creature's head. "Now he's basically a big puppy, aren't you, Brutus?" Brutus responded by lowering its massive head and nudging Marcus forward, nearly knocking him off his feet. The human laughed. Zer did not. She stared, her long ears twitching in a mix of horror and fascination. "Do you have any idea how impossible this is?" she asked, taking a cautious step forward. Brutus lifted its head at her movement, eyes narrowing. Zyra stopped immediately. "Relax," Marcus said. "He's just checking you out." "Checking me out?" Zer resisted the urge to take another step back. "A Vorak doesn't check people out. It dismembers them." "Yeah, well, that's a common misconception." Marcus crossed, his arms looking entirely too casual for someone standing next to a living weapon. "They're just misunderstood." Zer gave him a long, unreadable stare. "Misunderstood?" "Yep. The same Vorak that obliterate warships and leave entire planets in ruin?" Marcus shrugged. "You ever think maybe they were just having a bad day?" Zer blinked at him, genuinely wondering if humans lacked the ability to process danger correctly. She exhaled, rubbing her temples. "This is the single most reckless, nonsensical, impossible thing I have ever seen." Marcus grinned. "Thanks. That was not a compliment." I'll take it anyway." Zer groaned, glancing at Brutus again. The Vorak wasn't attacking. That alone was a reality-shattering revelation. No scientist, no military strategist, no one in the galaxy had ever successfully controlled a Vorak. And yet here was Marcus, treating it like some overgrown pet. She had 1,000 questions, but her instincts told her not to push her luck just yet. Instead, she folded her arms. You realize you've completely shattered our understanding of Vorak biology. Cool, Marcus said. Does that mean I get a prize? Or something?
Yes, the prize is not being immediately vaporized for doing something idiotic. Marcus laughed. Oh man, that's way better than the last prize I got. Zur frowned. What was the last prize? Marcus made a face. Food poisoning. She gave him a
blank stare. You humans are a strange species. Yeah, I hear that a lot. A silence stretched between them. Zur weighed her options. She could leave, report this bizarre discovery to the Ziran High Council, and let them decide what to do about this anomaly of a human. But something held her back. Curiosity, maybe. Or maybe the realization that, for the first time in her life, she was witnessing something new, something that defied every law of nature. Her long ears twitched. Fine, she said at last. I'm staying. I need to understand how this happened. Marcus's grin widened. Welcome to the club, she sighed. Do I get a membership card? Nah, but you get to pet Brutus if he lets you. Zer side-eyed the Vorak. It stared back with unreadable eyes. I think I'll pass. Zer had never considered herself easily shaken. She had flown through asteroid storms, navigated war-torn star systems, and negotiated with species whose primary language involved projectile venom. And yet, standing a few feet away from a Vorak beast while its human companion casually scratched it behind one of its thick armored ridges, this was the moment her composure faltered. Brutus, the name still felt ridiculous for a creature classified as a Class X planetary threat, had settled onto its haunches beside Marcus, its long tail curling idly in the dirt. Zyra took careful note of its movements, how its massive, plated body adjusted weight with fluid grace, how its nostrils flared slightly every time she moved. It was watching her, assessing. She said slowly, "You're telling me you raised this thing since he was a baby?" Marcus confirmed, rubbing his hands together as if reminiscing about a fond childhood memory. Little guy was all teeth and attitude back then. Used to try and bite my fingers off daily. Zer blinked. That sounds exactly like every Vorak encounter ever recorded. Yeah, but see, the trick is consistency. You gotta earn their respect, set boundaries, treat them with patience, care, and a whole lot of snacks. Zyra stared at him, then at Brutus, then back at Marcus. I have so many questions, she muttered. Marcus grinned. Hit me. How did you even survive its infancy? Vorak are born with fully developed hunting instincts. Most species don't last 5 seconds in their presence. Oh, I lasted way longer than 5 seconds, Marcus said proudly. I mean, sure, I lost a few boots and a couple of shirts and once almost a leg, but it was all part of the bonding process. Zur was struggling to decide whether she was impressed, horrified, or just vaguely nauseous. You almost lost a leg? Well, technically it was just the lower half. And to be fair, I probably shouldn't have tried to take away his food that day. Zur massaged her temples. This is the single dumbest survival story I've ever heard. Marcus shrugged. Hey, I never said it was smart, just effective. Brutus made a low, chuffing sound. Zur tensed before realizing, was that supposed to be amusement? The Vorak's bioluminescent eyes blinked slowly, and Zur suddenly had the distinct, unsettling impression that it was listening to them. Understanding them. She needed more data. All right, she said, keeping her voice calm. How did you feed it? Vorak are apex hunters. Their biology requires high-energy prey. You didn't let it hunt, did you? Marcus chuckled. Nah, I had to get creative. You ever heard of reconstituted protein paste? Zir's nose wrinkled. That disgusting sludge they give prisoners? That's the one. Marcus nodded. Turns out, if you modify the molecular density and infuse it with the right amino acids, It makes a decent enough meal for a growing Vorak. Tastes like sadness, though. You ate it? Well, yeah. We were bonding. Zer pinched the bridge of her nose. This is unreal. You're telling me that the most feared predator in the galaxy was raised on prison rations? I mean, I threw in some roasted grubs for variety, Marcus admitted. Brutus loves those. Brutus let out a deep guttural sound that rumbled through the clearing. Zyra stiffened, but Marcus just laughed. See, he agrees. Zyra exhaled slowly. This was madness. Pure, unfiltered madness. And yet, it was also undeniable. The Vorak wasn't attacking. It wasn't rampaging, hunting, or behaving in any way that aligned with everything science had documented about its species. It was just existing. Alongside a human. Something about that realization sent a shiver down Zer's spine. All right, she said, shifting gears. Let's say I accept that you somehow managed to raise a Vorak. Why hasn't it turned on you? Marcus looked genuinely surprised. Why would he? Because Vorak are programmed to be aggressive. Their entire species is hardwired for destruction. Marcus made a dismissive gesture. I think that's a little harsh. Brutus isn't violent for no reason. He's just protective. Zer arched a brow. Protective? Yeah, like, for example. Marcus casually took a step toward Zer. Brutus's body tensed immediately. His nostrils flared, his claws flexing ever so slightly against the dirt. The shift was subtle, but Zira had seen enough predators to recognize the difference between passive observation and prepared retaliation. Marcus raised both hands. Easy, bud. Just a demonstration. Brutus remained still, but the glow in his eyes pulsed faintly as if he were waiting for a single wrong move. Zir's breath came slower. You're saying it sees you as what, its pack? Marcus nodded. Exactly. Vorak aren't mindless monsters, they're just really, really bad at making friends. But once they do, they're loyal to the end. Zer let that thought sink in. She had spent years studying predator species, analyzing battle reports, breaking down attack patterns. Vorak had always been considered an enigma, uncontrollable forces of destruction, incapable of logic or restraint. But what if that was just an assumption? What if no one had ever bothered to look deeper? What if the galaxy had been wrong? Her long ears twitched. If what you're saying is true, this changes everything. Marcus grinned. Yep, you're welcome. She shot him a sharp look. Don't get cocky. This could also make you the most dangerous person in the known systems. Marcus blinked. Whoa, that sounds dramatic. Zer folded her arms. Think about it. Every major faction in the galaxy considers Vorak untamable. If word gets out that a human, a single human, has achieved the impossible, do you know what's going to happen? Free drinks? Galactic chaos. Marcus winced. Okay, yeah. That sounds less fun. Zer exhaled. This is bigger than you realize. If Vorak can be trained, trusted, then the balance of power shifts, Zira said, her voice low. You've done something that rewrites history, and that makes you a target. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. Well, he said, guess I should start looking over my shoulder, huh? Zira's gaze flicked toward Brutus, who was still watching her with those glowing, unreadable eyes. Not necessarily, she murmured. If anything, I think you've got the best bodyguard in the galaxy. Brutus let out another deep, satisfied rumble. Marcus grinned. Yeah, he said. I'd like to see someone try to mess with us. Zira had faced some absurd situations in her life, but sitting across from a human who had tamed a Vorak, while it casually dozed behind him, was a level of madness she had yet to categorize. Marcus sat cross-legged on a fallen tree, chewing lazily on a protein bar. He had offered her one earlier, but she had declined after he described the flavor as like compressed cardboard, but worse. Now she was watching him, studying the relaxed way he interacted with his monstrous companion, as if befriending a creature known for planetary devastation was just a perfectly normal Tuesday. I have to ask, Zyra said, arms folded, ears twitching slightly. What exactly were you doing on Veros 3 when you found Brutus? Marcus grinned, wiping a few crumbs from his fingers. Oh, you know, the usual. Exploring, gathering data, trying not to get eaten by things with too many teeth. He gestured around at the dense, vine-covered jungle. This place is a gold mine for undiscovered species. Figured I'd document a few before heading back to human space. Zira eyed him. So you weren't specifically looking for a Vorak? Oh, hell no, Marcus laughed. I might be reckless, but I'm not that reckless. I was just trekking through the valley when I heard this weird screeching sound. Thought maybe I'd found some kind of exotic bird. Zira arched a brow. A bird? Marcus shrugged. In my defense, baby Voraks sound really different from the adults. He leaned forward slightly, eyes gleaming with the memory. I followed the noise and found Brutus, tiny, angry, and stuck in some collapsed tree roots. Poor guy was all alone, no mother in sight. Zira frowned. Vorak mothers are notoriously protective. If she wasn't there, something must have happened. Yeah, I figured that out the hard way, Marcus sighed. While I was trying to dig him out, I started noticing scorch marks on the trees nearby. Looked like plasma burns. Zira stiffened. You think poachers got to them first? That was my guess. Marcus leaned back, resting his hands behind his head. Wouldn't be the first time some shady group tried to capture a Vorak. Problem is, they usually regret it real fast. Zira could confirm that. Vorak were worth a fortune on the black market, but anyone foolish enough to try capturing one rarely lived long enough to spend the profits. The fact that Brutus had been left behind meant the poachers had either taken what they wanted or died trying. So you decided to rescue a newborn Vorak, Zira said, voice flat. Just like that? Well, I wasn't going to leave him there. Marcus shrugged. He was tiny, helpless, looked like a pissed-off spiky potato. Zira pressed her fingers against her temple. You are an enigma, Marcus Hale. Aw, thanks. That was not a compliment. Brutus made a low grumbling noise in his sleep, his massive bulk shifting slightly. Zira watched as Marcus absent-mindedly reached back and patted the Vorak's plated hide, as if comforting a giant, murderous house pet. You're telling me you just took him in? She continued, disbelief laced in every word. More like he took me in, Marcus corrected. He followed me everywhere after I got him free, kept growling at me whenever I tried to leave. Zira narrowed her eyes. You bonded with him? Marcus snapped his fingers. Bingo. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, Marcus gestured at the peacefully slumbering Vorak. Zira sat back, exhaling slowly. Her people had spent centuries studying Vorak, trying to understand them, trying to survive them. And this human, this absolute anomaly of a human, had done something no scientist, no warrior, no leader had ever even considered. She shook her head. You have no idea how much of a scientific breakthrough this is, Marcus smirked. So what? Are you going to write a paper about me? More like a classified report, Zira muttered. Marcus's grin widened. If word gets out that a human tamed a Vorak, the galaxy's gonna lose its collective mind. Zira twitched. Yeah, we kinda covered that earlier. Galactic chaos, bounty hunters, people suddenly wanting my secrets. He flashed a cocky grin. At least I'll finally be popular. You're already popular, Zira muttered, among reckless idiots. Marcus laughed. Hey, reckless idiots have great stories. Zira sighed. She needed to get back to her ship and send a preliminary report, but something about this situation made her hesitate. Something deep, nagging at the edges of her mind. Brutus was too calm. Not just in the way he behaved around Marcus, but in general. Even the rare captive Vorak documented in controlled environments had shown restless, aggressive tendencies. But Brutus, he wasn't just tolerating Marcus. He was attached to him. Her long ears twitched as she studied them both. Marcus, she said carefully, have you ever felt anything strange around Brutus? Marcus tilted his head. Strange how? I mean something beyond the physical. Zira hesitated, choosing her words with care. Vorak are known to be highly instinct-driven, but she hesitated. There are unconfirmed reports that they might be more than that they have some kind of latent telepathic ability. Marcus frowned. Like mind reading? More like a deep instinctual bond. They don't communicate with words, but they connect, in ways we don't fully understand. Marcus considered that. Huh. Zira repeated. I mean, now that you mention it. He scratched his chin. Sometimes I do get these weird gut feelings about what Brutus wants. Like, I'll just know if he's hungry or restless before he even moves. Zira's blood ran cold. That's not normal, Marcus. Well, yeah, he said. I figured that out when I adopted a giant murder lizard. Zira ignored the sarcasm. If Marcus had somehow formed a genuine psychic link with a Vorak, that was an even bigger revelation than taming one. It meant Vorak weren't just biological weapons. They were something more, something connected. And, if that was true, then Marcus wasn't just the first human to tame a Vorak. He was the first being in history to truly understand one. Zira took a slow breath, her mind racing. If the wrong people found out about this, she stood abruptly. We need to leave, Marcus blinked. What, right now? Yes. Zira's voice was firm. Because I guarantee we're not the only ones interested in this discovery. As if to punctuate her words, Brutus's ears twitched. His glowing eyes snapped open, and the deep rumble in his throat was no longer amused. It was a warning. Marcus had a saying. When a giant, highly intelligent death lizard suddenly gets tense, you should probably listen. Brutus's bioluminescent eyes flickered with sharp awareness. His hulking frame rose from his restful position, nostrils flaring as he tasted something on the air. A deep guttural growl vibrated through his massive chest. Zira's long ears twitched. She had been in enough precarious situations to recognize a warning sign when she saw one. We're not alone, she murmured. Marcus sighed, shoving the last bite of his protein bar into his mouth. I really hate how often people say that around me. Zira ignored him, scanning the thick jungle. The air had changed. The usual ambient hum of alien wildlife had gone eerily still, like the entire ecosystem had taken a collective breath, waiting for something to happen. Brutus flexed his claws against the dirt, his body shifting into a low defensive stance. Whatever. He sensed he didn't like it. Marcus dusted off his hands. All right, let's think about this. Who exactly might be lurking in these woods? Locals, predators, disgruntled exes? Zira shot him a look. Are exes something I should be worried about? I mean, statistically speaking. Probably not. Not comforting. Brutus let out a sharp chuff. And that was all the warning they got. A blast of energy sizzled through the air, slamming into the ground a few feet from where they stood. Dirt and debris exploded upward, shaking the trees. Zira spun, blaster already in hand, instincts flaring to life. Marcus stumbled back. Okay, hey, definitely not an X. From the dense foliage, figures emerged, sleek armor, reflective visors, weapons drawn. Zira cursed under her breath. Poachers. There were 5 of them, moving in coordinated steps, weapons trained with precise intent. Not the clunky, desperate sort of scavengers that trolled the outer systems for scraps. No. These were professionals. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. All right, so, do we negotiate? A second blast scorched the ground inches. From his foot. Guess not, he yelped. Zira was already in motion. She fired twice, forcing the poachers to duck behind thick jungle underbrush. Brutus, however, did not duck. The Vorak let out an ear-splitting roar that physically shook the air. The jungle trembled, and for a brief, glorious moment, the poachers hesitated, because suddenly their prize was not a passive, docile creature. It was an apex predator looking them dead in the eyes. Marcus grinned. Oh, now they're thinking twice. Brutus lunged. Chaos erupted. The poachers scrambled to adjust their strategy, but Brutus was fast. Too fast. One of them barely had time to aim before the Vorak slammed into him, sending him flying like a rag doll into a tree. Zira ducked behind, a boulder, her sharp eyes scanning the battlefield. We need to move. Now. Marcus was already jogging after her, half laughing, half panicking. You are seeing Brutus go full death beast, right? I feel like we could just sit back and let him handle this. Another energy blast seared past them. Marcus quickly reconsidered. Okay, yeah. Running is a solid plan. They sprinted through the jungle, weaving between massive roots and thick vines, Brutus thundering behind them. The Vorak was deliberately positioning himself between them and the poachers, his enormous bulk, acting as a living shield. Where's your ship? Marcus called. Half a click east, Zira replied. They broke through the tree line and skidded to a halt. There it was, Zira's sleek vessel, half hidden beneath the jungle canopy. The ramp was already lowering. You left the ship unlocked, Marcus, huffed Zira, throwing him an exasperated glance. I remotely activated it. It still seems like a security flaw. Would you rather stand here and debate, or... A concussive blast struck just beside them, and they were thrown forward. Zira rolled with the momentum, coming up in a crouch. Marcus less gracefully face-planted into the dirt. Ow. Get up, Zira snapped. Marcus scrambled to his feet as Brutus spun to face their pursuers. The Vorak's spines flared, his glowing eyes locking onto the remaining poachers. One of them made the mistake of raising his weapon. Brutus roared. DT sound sent a shockwave through the clearing, so powerful that even Zira felt it reverberating in her bones. The poachers hesitated. One of them turned to the others, their stance shifting from aggressive to uncertain. Marcus wiped dirt from his face, panting. Yeah, that's your cue to leave. The poachers apparently agreed. After a moment of tense silence, they slowly backed, away, disappearing into the jungle. Brutus let out a huff of breath as if mildly disappointed. Zira didn't lower her weapon until the forest was still again. Then she turned to Marcus. We need to get off this planet. Now. Agreed. They bolted, up the ramp, Brutus lumbering in behind them. The ship's doors sealed shut just as Zira powered up the engines. The vessel rumbled to life, lifting off the jungle floor, cutting through the dense atmosphere. Inside, Marcus collapsed into a chair, letting out a long exhale. Well, that was fun. Zira shot him a glare. Fun? Okay, not fun. More like highly educational. Zira groaned, pinching the bridge of her nose. Do you ever take anything seriously? Marcus grinned. You'd hate me if I did. She wanted to argue, but instead she exhaled sharply, shaking her head. He wasn't entirely wrong. Brutus made a low rumbling sound, settling his enormous bulk into the cargo hold. He was calm again, content, as if the fight had never happened. Zira sat in the pilot's chair, fingers flying over the controls. Where are we going? Marcus asked. Zira's eyes narrowed. Somewhere safe. Somewhere far from whoever those poachers were working for. Marcus tilted his head. Think they were just after Brutus? Zira's stomach tightened. I don't know. Because, deep down, she had a sinking feeling that this was bigger than just a Vorak. This was about Marcus, and what he could do. The ship hummed as it cut through the void, a streak of silver against the endless black. Zira kept her hand steady on the controls, her gaze flicking between the star charts and the swirling mass of distant nebulas outside. The adrenaline from the fight hadn't fully worn off, but at least they weren't actively being shot at anymore. Marcus, on the other hand, had made himself very comfortable. He leaned back in his chair, stretching his legs out. What's our next move, Zira? My next move is figuring out how deep this goes. Your next move is to sit there and try, not to attract more trouble. Marcus grinned. Trouble finds me, it's a talent. Brutus rumbled from the cargo hold, as if voicing his agreement. The Vorak had curled up in the open space near the ship's loading bay, his massive frame barely fitting. His plated tail flicked once, then settled. Zira exhaled. We need information. That attack wasn't random. Marcus shrugged. Could've been your standard poacher squad. No, that was organized. And they weren't just after Brutus. Zira turned to face him fully. They were after you. Marcus blinked. Oh. He considered that for a moment. Okay. Yeah, that's less fun. Much less. Zyra crossed her arms, her long ears twitching slightly. You did something impossible, Marcus. You tamed a Vorak. And if that wasn't bad enough, you might also have a psychic connection with him. Marcus scratched the back of his neck. Psychics, a wrong word. It's more like, I just get him, you know? Yes. And that shouldn't be possible. Zyra shook her head. I need to contact someone who might have answers. Marcus frowned. Oh no, you're not calling like an uptight alien scientist, are you? Zyra arched a brow. Would you prefer an uptight military officer? Actually, yeah. I think I would. Well, too bad. Marcus groaned. This is going to involve a lot of serious talk, and big words, isn't it? Most likely. He sighed dramatically. Fine. But if they start throwing around the phrase medical experiments, I'm out. Zyra rolled her eyes and tapped a sequence into the console. A few moments later, the comms panel flickered to life, revealing a grainy image of a middle-aged, Yanari woman with silvery blue skin and a no-nonsense expression. Her deep violet eyes sharpened as soon as she saw Zyra. Zyra, the woman said, folding her hands together. I assume you have a good reason for contacting me. Professor Leon, Zyra said, I have something you need to see. The professor studied her for a long moment. Go on. Zyra exhaled and gestured toward Marcus. This is Marcus Hale. He tamed a Vorak, Leon interrupted, her tone unreadable. I already know. Zyra blinked. You already know? Leon leaned back. Slightly, her expression unreadable. The moment word got out about a Vorak being near humans without attacking anything, I had my suspicions. Marcus raised a hand. Hi, the human in question here. So, why do I get the feeling this is really bad news? Leon let out a slow breath. Because it is. The air in the cockpit seemed to shift. Leon continued, her voice cool and precise. Vorak are more than just apex predators. The reason they've never been tamed isn't because they lack intelligence, it's because they choose not to bond. They reject all forms of control. Zyra nodded. That's what I thought. But then Marcus did the impossible. Leon finished. Which means one of two things. Either he's unknowingly using some kind of external influence. Unlikely, Zyra said. There was no tech, no drugs, nothing. Leon nodded. Then that leaves the second option. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Which is? Leon's gaze fixed on him. You're not just bonded with the Vorak. You're linked. Silence stretched. Between them, Marcus cleared his throat. Okay, so in the interest of my continued survival, could we define linked? Leon hesitated as if debating how much to say. There have been theories. The Vorak don't operate solely on instinct. There's a pattern to their movements, their attacks, even their migrations. Some of us believe they share a kind of hive intelligence, not like insects, but something deeper. A network of sorts. Marcus frowned. Are you saying I'm in a Vorak group chat? Zyra groaned. Marcus. What? I need to know if I'm suddenly going to start thinking in growls. Leon ignored him. It's possible that Brutus didn't just accept you, he integrated you. And if that's true, then you might have access to something no other species has ever unlocked. Marcus scratched his chin. I mean, I have been getting some weird gut feelings lately, like I knew those poachers were coming before Brutus even reacted. Leon's expression darkened. That's not a gut feeling. That's Vorak awareness. Zyra's, stomach twisted. If Marcus really was linked into something bigger, something connected to a species as destructive as the Vorak, then the implications were staggering. Leon leaned forward. Listen to me carefully. If others find out about this, Marcus, they won't just want to study you, they'll want to control you. Governments, black market organizations, you name it. Marcus exhaled slowly. Fantastic. Just what I needed. More. Reasons to be paranoid. Zyra frowned. What do we do now? Leon considered. For now, lay low. I'll look into this, see what I can uncover. But whatever you do, Don't let anyone else know about this. Too late, Mark muttered. Poachers already knew something. Leon's expression tightened. Then it's only a matter of time before others come looking. The comms flickered, and the transmission ended, leaving behind a heavy silence. Marcus sighed, rubbing his temples. So, to summarize, I've accidentally joined the psychic death lizard network. People are going to hunt me down. And we're flying. Blind into the unknown? Zir nodded. Pretty much. Marcus leaned back. Cool. Love that for us. Brutus let out a deep, approving rumble. Zir shot the Vor a look. You would. There were a lot of things Marcus had expected to happen in his lifetime. Getting lost in deep space, running from intergalactic debt collectors, maybe even being arrested for smuggling questionably legal snacks across planetary borders. But joining the psychic hive mind of the galaxy's most feared apex predator, that was not on the list. And now, as he leaned against the ship's console, watching Zira pace with that extremely serious look on her face, he was starting to feel the full weight of it. So, he said, clapping his hands together. What's our game plan? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience being a valuable scientific anomaly. Well, there was that one time I accidentally ate a fruit that made me glow for 3 days. But that's not really the same thing. Zir shot him a glare. This is serious, Marcus. I know it's serious, I'm just trying to process it the way I process everything, by making jokes until it stops being terrifying. Brutus huffed from the cargo hold, lifting his enormous head, just long enough to rumble what was undoubtedly some sort of Vorak disapproval before settling back down. Zir exhaled, rubbing her temples. Okay. Liren told us to lay low. That means no drawing attention to ourselves. Fantastic. Love that. Just one question, how? Marcus gestured broadly. I travel with a giant living war machine that people are already trying to steal. Oh, and apparently I'm now mentally connected to an entire species of them. So forgive me if laying low sounds like a bit of a stretch. Zyra's ears twitched. We need to disappear. No paper trails, no credits moving in traceable ways. I have a contact on Alaron 5 who specializes in making people vanish. New IDs, new histories, everything. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Wait, how many times have you had to disappear? She ignored him. We'll dock in the Undercity. It's a smuggler haven, but it means no one asks questions as long as you pay them enough. Marcus sighed. Let me guess. Your contact is grumpy, untrustworthy, and has some kind of weird hobby, like collecting teeth? Zir crossed her arms. He's grumpy, but trustworthy. Uh-huh. And the teeth? He only sometimes collects teeth. Marcus groaned. I hate being right. The cityscape of Alaron 5 sprawled beneath them, a massive layered metropolis where the wealthy floated in shimmering towers while the desperate clung to the neon-drenched gutters below. They landed in the Undercity, where the light barely reached and the air smelled like burnt circuits and bad decisions. The docking bay groaned as the ship settled, steam hissing from vent ports. As they stepped off the ramp, Marcus took one look, around and nodded. Yep, this place definitely smells like crime. Zir didn't slow her pace. Stay close, keep your mouth shut. 2 things I'm famously bad at. Zir gritted her teeth and marched toward a dimly lit storefront wedged between 2 auto repair shops. The sign above the entrance flickered in and out, reading, Tibbs Legitimate Goods and Services. Marcus snorted. Hilarious. Zira ignored him and knocked sharply on the metal door. There was a pause, then a mechanical voice crackled through the speaker. If you're selling something, I don't want it. If you're collecting a debt, I definitely don't have it. Zir sighed. Tib, it's me. A beat of silence. Then, a heavy series of locks disengaged, and the door slid open. The man inside was exactly what Marcus expected, short, stocky, with wild white hair that looked like it had lost a fight with a plasma coil. His eyes flicked between them, sharp and suspicious, before landing on Marcus. Who's the human? Marcus gave a little wave. Hi, I'm a walking scientific impossibility and also wanted by mysterious forces for reasons I don't entirely understand. You must be Tib. Love the place. Very, damp. Tib scowled. He talks too much. Zira groaned. I know. Tib stepped back, gesturing them inside. The interior was cluttered with old tech, half-functional droids, and way too many jars filled with things Marcus did not want to ask about. Zira got straight to the point. We need to disappear. Completely. Tib grunted, already moving toward a terminal. New IDs? Yes. New ship registry? Yes. Tib turned to look at Marcus. New face? Marcus blinked. Wait, what? Tib shrugged. I offer facial reconstruction. New. Bone structure, new biometrics. Makes it harder for people to find you. Marcus gasped. Oh, I am not changing my face. I like my face. It's got character. Tib raised an unimpressed brow. It's got easily recognizable and traceable written all over it. Zer sighed. Just the IDs and ship registry for now. Tib muttered something under his breath and started typing. It'll take an hour, and it won't be cheap. Marcus leaned against the counter. So, Tib, out of curiosity, what's with all the... He gestured vaguely at the jars of things on the shelves. Biological weirdness? Tib barely looked up. Science. Marcus nodded. Horrifying. Brutus, who had been surprisingly silent, let out a low, rumbling growl from where he crouched near the entrance. His glowing eyes flicked toward the door. A second later, the door slammed open. 3 figures strode inside, weapons drawn. Mercenaries. Tattoos marked them as belonging to a syndicate, one of the many that prowled the Undercity. Tib let out an exasperated sigh. You know, I just cleaned this place. The lead mercenary, a scarred woman with cybernetic implants, glanced between them, her eyes lingering on Marcus. You're coming with us. Marcus exhaled. Yeah. See, I knew today was going too well. Zyra's blaster was already in her hand. Not happening. The mercenary smirked. Oh, I think it is. Brutus growled. The mercenary hesitated, her grip tightening on her weapon. You think that thing scares me? Marcus grinned. Oh, I know it does. The Vorak rose to his full, terrifying height, his bioluminescent eyes narrowing. The mercenary swallowed but held her ground. Zira tensed. Marcus, any bright ideas? Marcus glanced at Tib. Hey, Tib, got any emergency exits? Tib sighed, typing something into the terminal. A second later, a trapdoor snapped open beneath them. Oh, Marcus blinked. Neat. And then they all fell through it. Recovering from the psychic roar, Zyra shot him a look. I hate that you were right. Later, after the mercenaries had fled, after Tib had miraculously shown up with an escape plan that didn't involve falling through another trapdoor, after Zer had punched Marcus in the arm for not telling her about the whole leading an army, a Vorak thing, things had finally started to settle. The Vor had accepted Marcus as something more than just an outsider. He wasn't just a human anymore, at least not in the way he had been before. He was linked to something greater, something older than any of them had realized, and more importantly, he was free. No more bounty hunters, no more shadowy corporations hunting him down, no more waking up and wondering if today was the day someone shoved him out an airlock. He leaned against the hull of his ship, staring out at the sky. Zer joined him. So, what now? Marcus considered. I was thinking breakfast. Zyra sighed. That's not what I meant, he grinned. I know, but I still want breakfast. She crossed her arms. You could do anything. You have power now, Marcus. Influence. The Vorak listened to you, that means something. He thought about that. Thought about all the things he could do, all the ways he could change things. Then he turned to her, a slow smile forming. Zer. What? I think I want to start a petting zoo. She stared at him. Marcus, no. Hear me out. Think about it. A Vor sanctuary, but also a tourist attraction. People come in, pay a fee, get to experience the terrifying majesty of the galaxy's most feared creatures. Safely, of course. Maybe some cute plushies in the gift shop. Brand t-shirts. This could be huge. Zer put her face in her hands. I can't believe I helped save you. Brutus, ever supportive, rumbled in approval, and just like that, Marcus knew. Whatever came next, whatever ridiculous, impossible adventure the universe threw at him, he wasn't facing it alone.